studying things frequently and for long periods of time, you can start to notice certain patterns and trends involving them. We've all heard that Satan's word is backwards, upside down, and inside out. To break the code, first of all, one should apply the same rules applied to reading hieroglyphs, reading them from right to left, left to right, and up and down. Just as a hieroglyph, a picture of an object or symbol can represent a word, a syllable, or a sound, so can many letters of the alphabet. For example, the letter C may also represent the word C. Similarly, a single letter may be used to represent a letter, a word, or a symbol. For example, when we see the word X, we might be able to think of the word sex. So X followed by an E could give us the word sexy. Rebus. Wikipedia defines rebus as an allusional device that uses pictures to represent words or parts of words. An example of one type of rebus known as a literal word is CU for see you. In Egypt, dating back as far as the 4th century BC, hieroglyphs were read in rebus fashion. In linguistics, the use of the rebus principle is the use of existing symbols such as pictograms, purely for their sounds, regardless of their meaning, to represent new words. Rebus can also mean to use a pictogram to represent a syllabic sound. A process that uses this type of rebus played an important role in the development of the alphabet. In addition to reading words backwards to decipher them, the order of their letters can also be rearranged. Some letters are also other letters that have been rotated or flipped, like the A and the E. As with hieroglyphs, where many common sequences of signs were joined into ligatures, some letters can be fused together, like the N and the A, to give you an M. The C and the I can be fused to give us the D. Two V's create a W. Letters that sound alike, like the M and N, can replace one another. Lowercase letters are also used in this scheme. Even the type of font used can affect and help modify symbols. There are experiments that show if the first and the last letter of a word are correct, then your mind will still be able to read the word properly, regardless of what the letters in between are. Take a look at the following example. Crowley's Law of Reversal. The two most important laws of Satanism are the law of reversal and self-awareness, where you yourself are a god. According to Aleister Crowley's Magic, Book 4, Crowley said, "Let him train himself to think backwards by external means as set forth here following. Let him learn to write backwards. Let him learn to walk backwards. Let him listen to phonograph records reversed. Let him practice speaking backwards. Let him learn to read backwards. Instead of saying I am he, let him say my I." Those who want fame, power, spellcasting abilities, and demons at their beck and call practice talking, walking, and thinking in reverse, as well as playing records backwards. Rotation, flipping, and switching. There are many different ways in which different words and messages can be encoded. So just how exactly are the letters of the alphabet utilized in doing so? The architecture of the alphabet is magical. One can find patterns in everything. Sure, there's a pattern of patterns being used. Most methods of encryption use some kind of pattern. But this is a very well thought and methodical one. Some letters are similar in appearance and can easily be mistaken for one another. We've seen in the history of the alphabet how some letters were rotated and how early scribes were free to write in any direction. Rotation of letters is usually standard, either 90 degrees clockwise or anti-clockwise, or simply a 180-degree rotation. An effect can also be produced by rotating the letters only a few degrees right or left. Decoding also involves a method of flipping the letters either vertically or horizontally. This produces an inversion of the letter, which can't be produced by rotation alone. Encoding these words may be involving just a simple slight manipulation of letters. These methods of rotation and flipping can be used to decode different words and actual graphics of logos. The position of the letters or words can be switched, whether there's a specific method to it, as discussed in the chapter entitled Satan's Algorithm, or not. Often in names, especially movie titles that consist of more than one word, switching the first letter or first few letters allows us to expose different hidden messages and meanings. This sort of takes Crowley's law of reversal to another level. Think of Crowley's law on steroids. The main concept or theme of Crowley's law is backwards or in reverse. I've discovered that they aren't only read backwards, they can also be read upside down and inside out. It has always been somewhat of an urban legend that Satan does everything backwards. Well, maybe he does more than that. Maybe there's more involved. The methods I'm describing here are not that different and go hand in hand with Crowley's law, and I think they all complement each other. Close. Open. Do you see what was done here? The C fuses with the L, and both are rotated 180 degrees. The O shifted one position to the left, and the S is rotated 90 degrees, clockwise or counterclockwise, and inverted horizontally, giving you the letter N. Clever, isn't it? Looks like, sounds like. The human brain is one of the most complex arrangements or mesh of cells. The brain allows us to experience this dimension through our different senses. This brain can be acted on by outside forces that affect our experiences. We understand that we have a conscious and a subconscious mind, and that the subconscious mind can have a great effect on how we experience this journey called life. Being able to change the programming of the subconscious can allow one to have a better experience, but at the same time can allow others to exert their control over it. Try to read this. I believe the devil doesn't know how to spell, or spelling is not important. Therefore, it doesn't matter when breaking the code. You just read the word as it is. The spelling or the way that a word is read may depend more on how the word looks than the actual letters used. The online etymology dictionary defines Satan as a proper name of the supreme evil spirit in Christianity, Old English, Late Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. It comes from the roots STN, for one who opposes, obstructs, or acts as an adversary. So basically, the word Satan is derived from the three letters STN. Some letters are interchangeable, especially the vowels, as in this case with the word Satan. Remember that vowels weren't introduced into the alphabet until the 9th century BC. There are a number of combinations of letters that can fit between the ST and the T and the N to give you Satan. You don't even need any letters in between, and you should still be able to understand the word is Satan. Some of the letters of the alphabet look like Masonic symbols, and many logos and names of companies simply consist of a letter or two or three or four. Some letters look alike and sound alike, like the M and the N, so that mind automatically switches between them. They are interchangeable. Fonts can come into play as well as the upper and lower case version of letters. Sometimes it can just be how or what the name looks like. I've given the example before of Safari. For certain words, your mind can just register the first and last letters in the word, and the brain can automatically fill in the blanks. Upper and lower case. Fusion. The Greek originally had a single form of each letter. They developed the letter case distinction between uppercase and lowercase in parallel with Latin during the modern era. There are many examples of words in which breaking the code involves conversion of uppercase letters to lowercase and or vice versa. It should be noted that some letters look completely different when switched between upper and lowercase. And in many fonts, the capital I looks like a lowercase L. And the L looks like a vertically inverted lowercase r. Some letters, when fused together, look completely like other letters. Just as the ancient Egyptians fused common sequences of signs into ligatures, part of the encoding process using the alphabet letters involves combining some of the letters together, like the N and the A giving us M, and the R and the I giving us the letter N. You can fuse the C and the L together to give us the letter D. The devil is dyslexic. It's been an urban legend that the devil does things backwards. When exploring how he uses the alphabet, a certain pattern emerges. Looking at words or names and reading them in a certain way that mimics a child who's just learning how to read. This sounds strange, yet there's a pattern that occurs in so many names and words. If you think about it, this makes sense since all the brainwashing and mind control begins with a very young age. We're given ABC blocks as babies, and then children learn to read, starting out by being very slow and often breaking words down into syllables. They tend to stress certain letters too much while slightly mispronouncing some letters or words. An example of this would be Dettol. I imagine a child's approach to reading this may be something like death to all, which translates to death to all. Another example of this would be end all. Then there are plenty more examples. When looking up the word dyslexia, you can imagine what I felt when I came across this. When I saw this chart, I couldn't believe it. This is exactly what I was doing. This involved the rotation of letters, flipping and inverting them, and a combination of all of this. Here I learned that dyslexics can write the word teapot several ways by rotating, flipping, and inverting the letters. Here we have 10 variations for the word. This gave me chills. Wikipedia defines dyslexia as a developmental reading disorder characterized by difficulty in learning to read and write, and with different comprehension of language despite normal or above normal intelligence. It doesn't matter the order the letters are, so as long as the first and last letters are correct, the mind is able to understand and read it correctly. With 26 alphabet letters, there's an endless opportunity to writing or spelling of a single word. Some words have dual pronunciation, like the word read, and the mind is quickly able to distinguish which is correct based on the context. Early childhood symptoms also include difficulty distinguishing left from right, as well as difficulty with direction. I found it strange that Wikipedia says a common myth closely associates dyslexia with mirror writing and reading letters or words backwards. Maybe it's more than just a myth. Upper and lowercase letters. Switching back and forth between upper and lowercase letters gives one more options to choose from when encoding and decoding words. Fonts. Fonts can also play a role in encoding and decoding some of these words. Take for instance the word Safari, as in the Apple iOS browser. Certain fonts have letters which are closer to each other than other fonts, so depending on how close the R and the I are, your subconscious may see the two letters fused together, giving the appearance of the letter N. And depending on the type of font used, the F in Safari can look like the letter T. So this modification, along with previous ones, allows Safari to look like Satan. Your subconscious can register it as Satan. Vowels and numbers. Vowels were not included in the alphabet until the Greek added them around the 9th century BC. Numbers and other symbols can also be used in the code. The devil's algorithm. If this all just ends up being a bunch of nonsense and nothing at all, then I can confidently say that at least I came up with a new cipher. Cryptography or cryptology, as from the Greek kryptos, meaning hidden secret, and graphene, meaning writing, or logia, study, is the practice and study of techniques for secure communication in the presence of third parties. So basically, it's a way to safely send private messages or sensitive information like a password or credit card number. This is different than encryption, which is basically scrambling the message in such a way that only those for whom it is intended for can read it. So if somehow a third party was able to intercept the message, if it is encrypted, they will not be able to read it. The way in which the sensitive information is encrypted is using an algorithm. Usually, in order for the recipient to read the message, they must have the secret knowledge or use a key. Before we had invented all the wonderful technology we have now, cryptography and encryption were basically the same. Decryption is defined as the opposite, where whatever was made into an unreadable state is returned back to being readable again. A cipher is a pair of algorithms that create the encryption and reversing decryption. Again, what I read next gave me chills. The main cipher types are transposition ciphers, where you rearrange the order of the letters in a message, so YouTube becomes Uebut, and substitution ciphers, where you systematically replace the letters or groups of letters with other letters or groups of letters. Fly at once becomes GMZBUPODF, by replacing each letter with the one following it in the Latin alphabet. An example of a substitution cipher was the Caesar cipher, in which each letter in the plain text was replaced by a letter, some fixed number of position. Oh wait. In India there are two known ciphers called Kautilya and Malavidya. In Kautilya, they substituted letters based on phonetic relations, such as vowels becoming consonants. In Malavidya, the cipher alphabet consists of pairing letters and using the reciprocal ones. The word syntax, which can be defined as the study of the rules that govern the way signs can be combined to form words and phrases. Satan and his demons have left their signature everywhere. The architecture of the alphabet is incredibly magical. One day I was just staring at things, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Among the most common of the words I was able to decode was the word jinn or jinn. Then, after realizing that there be more than one word encoded into these words, I figured out that almost any word can be deciphered to give some variation of the word demon, jinn, Satan, devil, and Lucifer, including the words demonic and demons. I particularly noticed that the word demon is present in many more than the rest. It's as if the devil and his demons have left the stamp or their signature for all that have eyes to see. Warnings and predictions. Nostradamus predicted 3 antichrists. For the first antichrist, he said, an emperor will be born near Italy. He will cost his empire very dearly. He said he was a governor of France who would later lead the empire. In 1545 he wrote in a quatrain, Po ne Laurent shall be more fire than blood. Napoleon, Roy, Napoleon the King. This is why he considered Napoleon to be the first Antichrist. With regard to the third Antichrist, Nostradamus said his name is Mabus.